Inside the royal fairy tale, Princess Leonor's lavished wedding redefines 2025 bridal style. Every bride dreams of a fairy tale. Every kingdom dreams of a legacy. But no one expected this. A wedding so breathtaking, it didn't just make headlines, it changed bridal fashion forever. This wasn't just a royal wedding. It was a royal revolution. The morning sun rose over Madrid, and with it, the beginning of a new chapter in Spanish history. The city pulsed with excitement. Streets were filled with flowers, flags, and faces glowing with anticipation. Because today, Princess Leonor of Spain, the heir to the throne, was about to walk into the world's gaze, not just as a future queen, but as the bride who would redefine royal elegance for an entire generation. Cameras lined the palace gates. Global media buzzed. Designers, stylists, and historians waited for a single glimpse of the dress that had been whispered about for months. Rumors had swirled around everything, from the embroidery to the symbolism. And when the palace doors finally opened, silence fell. Leonor stepped out, radiant beyond words. Her gown, crafted in secrecy by Spain's most revered couturier, was not simply fabric and lace. It was a story. The bodice shimmered with fine gold thread, handwoven to symbolize Spain's royal heritage. The flowing skirt, soft and weightless, was adorned with delicate motifs representing unity, love, and renewal. It was the perfect balance, tradition meeting modern grace. Observers described it as the moment time stood still. Her veil, long as history itself, floated behind her, embroidered with the royal crest and the words, Amor Eterno, eternal love. Every detail held meaning. Every stitch spoke of legacy. And yet, behind the perfection, few knew the emotional weight Leonor carried. For years, she had been the princess of duty, disciplined, composed, always measured. But today, she was simply a woman in love, marrying the man who had seen her not as a crown, but as a heart. That man, Prince Christian of Denmark, stood waiting at the altar, his expression a blend of pride, disbelief, and pure love. When their eyes met, even the cameras seemed to hesitate. The formality dissolved. The royal protocols vanished. It wasn't Spain or Denmark anymore, it was just Leonor and Christian, two souls who had dared to love across borders, expectations, and centuries of royal tradition. But before this perfect day came years of whispers, doubts, and royal tension. Fashion houses competed to dress her. Advisors debated how modern was too modern. Queen Letizia, ever elegant and protective, insisted her daughters look on her Spanish craftsmanship. Let Spain be seen in every thread, she said. Leonor agreed. This wasn't just her wedding, it was a love letter to her nation. The designer chosen remained a secret until the very day. An icon of Spanish couture, known for blending regal structure with fluid femininity. Together, they designed not a dress, but an identity. Leonor's gown was made of over 600 hours of hand embroidery, using rare silk from Valencia and lace from her grandmother Queen Sophia's collection, a quiet nod to continuity across generations. As the carriage moved through the streets of Madrid, the people erupted in applause. Children waved flags, mothers wiped tears, and even the elderly whispered blessings. The dress shimmered in the sunlight, its hue subtly shifting with every step. It was no longer just a royal gown, it was Spain's pride made tangible. When Leonor entered the cathedral, the air thickened with awe. The floral arrangements, inspired by Andalusian gardens, framed the aisle like a dream. The orchestra began to play, a piece composed specifically for her by a Spanish maestro. Every note echoed history. Then came the veil lift. The crowd gasped softly as the sunlight touched her face. She smiled, gently, and the cathedral seemed to breathe again. Christian took her hand, and for a brief moment, the centuries of royal duty felt weightless. Their vows were deeply personal, written in secret and exchanged with trembling voices. When they said, "I do," it wasn't just two people uniting, it was two traditions, two countries, two futures merging into one shared story. But beyond the ceremony, the world's eyes remained fixed on one question. How did Princess Leonor's wedding redefine 2025 bridal style? Fashion critics called it the Leonor effect. Because her dress broke silent rules, it was royal yet relatable, grand yet intimate, traditional yet undeniably modern. She dared to step away from the cold perfection of old monarchy aesthetics and embraced something warmer, something human. Within weeks, bridal designers across Europe began creating gowns inspired by her silhouette. Lightweight silk overlays replaced stiff corsets. Gold thread detailing surged in popularity. Even Hollywood brides began referencing the Spanish fairy tale look. But Leonor's influence didn't stop at fashion. Her wedding sparked a cultural revival, an embrace of timeless romance in a world that had grown cynical. She reminded people that elegance isn't excess, it's emotion made visible. After the ceremony, during the royal reception, her second gown made just as much impact. It was simpler, flowing ivory with an off-shoulder cut, designed for freedom. It was a statement that even a princess can dance, laugh, and live beyond the weight of her crown. The moment she stepped onto the dance floor with Christian, the crowd erupted in applause. They moved like two people finally free from the boundaries of royal restraint. Later that night, as fireworks illuminated the Spanish sky, Leonor looked out from the palace balcony beside her husband. Cameras captured the moment, the future queen smiling softly, her gown catching the light like liquid gold. And beneath that poise, she whispered something to him. Only he could hear it. But her lips formed the words, "We did it." That quiet sentence would echo in the hearts of millions who watched from across the world. Because in her triumph, they saw more than luxury, they saw courage. The courage to blend legacy with modernity. The courage to be herself in a world that had already decided who she should be. By the next morning, every fashion magazine headline bore her name. Vogue called it, the wedding that changed European couture. Harper's Bazaar described her as, the face of the new royal era. Even designers in New York and Paris cited her gown as the beginning of a new wave, royal minimalism, they called it, where emotion replaces extravagance. But perhaps the most touching part of the story was hidden behind closed doors. A letter, written by Queen Letizia and found later, addressed to her daughter. My dearest Leonor, today you wore Spain's soul. You carried centuries of tradition and yet made it your own. Never forget, the most beautiful crown you'll ever wear is your heart. That sentiment captured everything the world felt. Princess Leonor's wedding wasn't just a royal spectacle. It was a love story between a woman, her heritage, and her future. It reminded the world that grace doesn't age, that elegance evolves, and that true style begins where authenticity lives. Today, brides everywhere draw inspiration from that moment. The golden gown, the flowing veil, the courage to stay true to one's roots while embracing change. Designers still reference the Leonor line, a style that merged power and softness, legacy and light. As the years pass, the story of that day continues to ripple through fashion, culture, and hearts. And every time someone whispers about the most unforgettable royal wedding of the 21st century, they return to that image. Princess Leonor, glowing in gold, walking toward love, wearing not just a dress, but a dream. Because in that single day, she didn't just redefine bridal style. She redefined what it means to be royal.